So you want to stay updated with the latest cybersecurity trends, news, exploits, and breaches, but you have no idea how to keep track of it all. Well, you are in luck, because in this video, I want to share with you the sources that I use to personally stay updated in this field, and by the end of this video, you're going to have a great foundation to stay updated within the cybersecurity industry for your career. And just in case you didn't know, it is a very popular interview question where an interviewer will ask a candidate how they stay updated in the field. And if you are applying for jobs and you don't have a good answer to that question, there's a good chance that you will be passed up for the position you are applying for. So if you have zero news sources or you're not up to date, make sure you pay attention to this video. For all the returning viewers, thank you so much for tuning back in. I thank you so much for your support, and thanks for watching yet another video. And if you're new here, hello, my name is Kyser Clark. I have almost 7 years of experience in cybersecurity, and I currently work as a full-time penetration tester, also known as an ethical hacker, and I'm here to help you grow your hacking and cybersecurity knowledge. First up, we have cybersecurity headlines from the CISO series, and it is my absolute favorite cybersecurity podcast other than my own podcast. And shameless plug, if you don't know, I have a podcast called The Hacker's Cache, where I interview experts in the field and provide you insights, expertise in the area of offensive security. It's on all podcast platforms and it's on YouTube as well. So check it out if you haven't already. New episodes every single Wednesday. However, my podcast, The Hacker's Cache, is not a news podcast. In fact, I don't cover the latest news trends and breaches on my content because I simply don't have the time and energy to scour the entire internet and bring you the latest and greatest information when it comes to what's happening in the cybersecurity field. And that's why I'm making this video, so I can point you in the right direction, because people at the CISO series do that for you. And that's why I highly recommend the cybersecurity headlines, because you can listen to one episode that takes anywhere between 5 to 8 minutes long, and you can get the news in a very short amount of time. And it's just something that I listen to every single day. It doesn't even take you that long to get caught up if you fall a week behind, because you can crank out an entire week's worth of episodes in about an hour. So it's really good podcast to staying up to date, but not spend a lot of time on it. It's just something I do when I hop in the shower, or if I'm driving to the grocery store. I'll just listen to the CISO series cybersecurity headlines, and I'm caught up in the news. And then on Fridays, they give you a second episode, which is a recap of the entire week's news. And that episode is about 20 minutes long. And it's more than just a recap, because they bring in a guest and then they actually have a discussion and they give you thoughts and opinions about the news in the week. And it's a very good show. And like I said, it's my favorite podcast in the cybersecurity industry that's not my own. And it's on all platforms that you can see here. I listen to it on Spotify. And if you scroll down, you can actually read this as well. So if you are not an audio listener, you can actually read this as well if you want to come in here, and you can subscribe to the newsletters right here. So you can put your email in here and you can subscribe to the newsletter. I do not read the news from the cybersecurity headlines. I listen, and we're going to get into some other newsletters here in a minute. But yeah, this is a great place to start. And as you can see, there's other podcasts that they do as well. They do the CISO series podcast. They do the Defense in Depth podcast. I don't listen to these two podcasts. I strictly stick to the cybersecurity headlines. But these other two podcasts are probably worth checking out, because they make great content in cybersecurity headlines. So I'd imagine these other two podcasts are good as well if you are interested in that. Next up, we have Cybersecurity Today from ITWC, which stands for IT World Canada. And even though it is a Canadian podcast, it's still relevant to people who are in the United States, and even the world for that matter. But if you're in the United States, it's still relevant to you, because one, Canada is literally right next to us, and they are very similar to us in terms of culture. And there's even talks about Canada being the 51st state. So even though they cover a lot of Canadian relevant topics and they dive into Canada specific stuff, they also talk a lot about things that are very relevant to the United States, because stuff that's happening in the United States affects them very much. So they do cover stuff that's specific to the United States as well, and like I said, the world as well. And if you're Canadian, then I think it's a no-brainer. You should be listening to Cybersecurity Today. There's no way you should be skipping this, because this one's for you. What I like about this show is that it's like the cybersecurity headlines from the CISO series, except instead of doing an episode every single weekday, they do a new episode every other weekday. So there's, they alternate between days on and days off, and they also do a weekly recap on Saturdays. The only caveat here is, since these guys are Canadian, they take a lot of days off, so you can expect a lot of gaps in the shows. Whereas the CISO series, they take maybe like 4 holidays a year off, whereas I feel like Canada, these guys are taking time off all the time. So it's still a good show nonetheless. They cover a lot of good topics. And then on their Saturday recap shows, it's very similar. They have like an hour-long show where they bring in several guests, and they just talk about the cybersecurity news, and they give their thoughts and opinions, and they're very opinionated, which is good because you can get insights from other experts in the field. I don't necessarily agree with everything they say, right? But it's still good to listen to their thoughts and opinions from other experts in the field. If you're getting value out of this video so far, do me a favor and like the video and subscribe for more hacking and cybersecurity content. Next up, we have another one of my favorites, the CompTIA Smart Brief, and this is a newsletter that you subscribe to. And I think I got automatically subscribed to it once I passed my Security Plus, and ever since I had Security Plus, I've just been getting the CompTIA Smart Brief newsletter, which is good because it keeps me updated. And if you don't have a CompTIA certification, you can just head on over to, if you just Google CompTIA Smart Brief, you'll find this, but you just type in your email, hit sign up, and you'll start getting emails. And what this one is it's a newsletter that comes directly to your email, and there's like 8 to 10 news articles that they share. And you can, what I do is I just read the headlines, and I just get a feel for, what's happening in the world of cybersecurity. And if there's an article that looks interesting to me, I'll click it and then I read the article. You don't have to read every single article to stay up to date. You can really just, read the ones that are applicable to you, or the ones that are interesting to you. And then things that aren't interesting to you, or things that don't necessarily apply to you, like reading the headline, in my opinion, is enough. And you'll see that is a similar theme throughout these newsletters I'm going to share with you. I don't read every single article that these newsletters put out there, because if I did, then I wouldn't have enough time. So I do mostly stick to the headlines when it comes to reading. But like I said, there's usually always one article or two per week that I will dive into and really read and understand, because it's interesting to me, and that's my advice to you. If you see something that's interesting to you, do a deeper dive, read it, or if it applies to you. So like, for example, I'm from Ohio, and when Columbus, Ohio, which is the capital city of Ohio, had a breach, I had to read that because I want to know what was going on with my state. So if it's something that applies to you, like a breach, or there's like a vulnerability in a certain software that you use, then it's in your best interest to read that. And that's what these newsletters are really good for. It's really good for pointing out things that might apply to you that you wouldn't get anywhere else. Next up, we have the Hacker News, which covers a lot of the things that are happening in the world of cybersecurity, and it comes to your inbox directly, or you can just go to their website and get the articles here. Whatever you choose, they're going to keep you up to date. And like I said, same thing here applies. Like, I will scroll through my newsletter and I'll just read these headlines, word for word. I'll read every single one of these headlines every single time they release a newsletter. I think they're releasing these every other day. And if I see one that's interesting to me, I'll click on it and I'll read the entire thing. Like I said, you don't need to read every single article. If you read every single article, you wouldn't have enough time to do anything else. So these are really good for, high-low overview. Read a headline. If it looks interesting, or if it's applicable to you, dive into it deeper. And they give you a recap as well at the end of the week, which is really nice. Overall, Hackers News and the CompTIA Smart Brief, very similar. I don't have a preference between the two. A lot of these news sources are going to cover the same news, especially if it's huge news. Obviously, every news source is going to be covering the same information, but it's good to see it from multiple sources, because different people have different opinions on, what's going on, and they might word it a little bit differently. That might make you understand a little bit better. So that's why it's important to subscribe to multiple news sources and not rely on a single source of truth. And that's why I'm showing you all the sources that I use. Literally everything in this video that I'm showing you is something that I use to stay up to date. I use all these sources because, like I said, you can't have a single source of truth, and the more sources that you put in your brain, the better off you're going to be. Next up, we have SANS News Bites, and once again, this is a newsletter that you can subscribe to and get the news sent straight to your email inbox, or you can go to the SANS website and you can get the news right here. And as you see, it's very similar fashion. We have headlines, and you can read the headlines, and then you can click to read more. And overall, they're going to cover a lot of the same stuff. However, a lot of these news sources also cover things that the other news sources aren't covering, which is, once again, another reason why you should be using multiple sources, because some news sources will leave out news that are important to you and some news sources don't. And that's why I think it's very important to subscribe to multiple news sources. And if you scroll down to the bottom here, you can subscribe to it right here. So there's SANS News Bites, which is the one I use. There's also Risk Security Alert, and there's Ouch Security Awareness. I only subscribe to the News Bites, but it's worth checking out the At Risk Security Alert and the Ouch Security Awareness as well. Next up, we have, this is an IT support group. This is actually a Facebook group that I joined long ago, and honestly, I don't really use it as a Facebook group anymore because I don't think Facebook groups offer tremendous value. I think Discord groups are going to do more for you, in my opinion. However, there is some value in joining these Facebook groups, and that's actually how I got started earlier in my career. I just joined a bunch of Facebook groups because I didn't know any better. But nowadays, I don't even get on Facebook anymore because I think Facebook's generally a waste of time. But if you're in a bunch of groups like this, then you could make Facebook definitely worth your time if you're, weeding out all the toxic stuff that Facebook has. You know what I mean? I'm sure you guys know what I mean. Anyways, what I use the IT support group for is their newsletter. And you can see right here, I'm going to zoom in right here. Sign up for our newsletter, you get IT career hacks and advice. And it's at https://thisisantitsupportgroup.com. And we can see, some information about it. But overall, they have a section in their newsletter dedicated to cybersecurity specifically. And I really like their newsletter. Unfortunately, I can't click this link and show you what's going on because the website, as you can see, is currently down. I can't reach it. Probably a DNS error, and I don't have time to record this any other time. So hopefully this site comes back up, but I promise you it is a newsletter worth subscribing to. I'm a huge fan of it, so definitely check out This Is IT Support Group. Last but not least, we have LinkedIn, and this is actually what my feed currently looks like. And this is a great place to get news because people who are in cybersecurity talk and post about cybersecurity. Who would have thought? So my advice here is connect with other industries and industry professionals in the field, and you're just going to get a lot of news and a lot of information just by scrolling LinkedIn. Now, I highly recommend following good people, and I have accepted a lot of requests from people who really aren't worth following, but my news feed is still filled with very good information, and not all of it's relevant, and not all of it's not cybersecurity, because I follow things like the School of Hard Knocks, which isn't even cybersecurity related. This is more entrepreneurial and business related. But moral of the story is whatever you follow, whatever you subscribe to on LinkedIn is going to help you out. And this is what I stroll. It's way less toxic than Facebook. I'm not saying that LinkedIn is toxic free by any means, but you can get a lot of good information here. And matter of fact, you're going to get the most breaking news and the latest and greatest cutting edge information on LinkedIn, because those news sources that I've already covered, they don't cover that news until the next day, right? Because they make their episodes the day before. So if something happens, Monday morning, you're not going to know about it until the next Tuesday, because Monday morning they've already released the episode for the day. So LinkedIn is a good place to get the latest and greatest. And like I said, you get a lot of information here. You got to be careful with who you follow. Like I said, my content that I see on here isn't all necessarily super beneficial to me. But you know, there's some humor, there's some memes on there. As you can see, I post memes on here, so you know, there's tons of good information out here. You just gotta be careful who you follow, what pages you follow, and that's the best advice I can give you. Also, Twitter, or sorry, it's now called X, is also a good place if you're following the right people. Same rules apply. I think LinkedIn's better than Twitter personally. I don't even scroll Twitter anymore. I used to, but I keep calling it Twitter. It's called X. I used to scroll X, and I don't anymore because I think LinkedIn's way more valuable. So definitely, if you don't have a LinkedIn account, create one, connect with other industry professionals, and follow other industry professionals, and you can use this to get some good information. Now, you can fall in a trap of doom scrolling. Like I said, there's a lot of content on LinkedIn that's not necessarily good for you. Some of it's a waste of time, but like I said, cybersecurity professionals talk about cybersecurity events, and I think LinkedIn is a good place to kind of just get a pulse on what's going on in the industry. So if you're not on LinkedIn, you definitely need to be. And we have a bonus here. Once again, another shameless plug. We have my newsletter. Now, my newsletter doesn't cover the news. It is called a newsletter, but it doesn't cover the news. This is called the Cyber Mindset Digest. Uncover the mindset, habits, and strategies to excel in cybersecurity and life, delivered directly to your inbox. They are cyber growth strategies and tips to help you grow in your career, and this is mostly motivational stuff, and I talk about the struggles that I'm going through, and I talk about how you can also overcome these struggles. And overall, this is more of a, you know, keep you on task, giving you the unfiltered truth. And it's not convenient truth. It's direct and to the point, and it's unfiltered. And it is content that you're not going to get from my blog, my podcast, or my YouTube channel. And it's just a reminder every single week. Every single Monday I release a new newsletter, and I send it directly to your inbox. It's just a reminder to keep you on track and to stay motivated, and that's what most of this newsletter is for. I also send you a bunch of links to my content, so if you missed a video or a podcast episode or a blog post, then you can get the link right there. It's just like a recap of all the content that I made. And at the bottom of the email, the newsletter email, I share the book that I'm currently reading. So if you're curious what book I'm reading currently, subscribe to my newsletter. I will always tell you what book I'm currently reading, because I read every single day, and I think reading is very important. But anyways, yeah, subscribe to my newsletter. Definitely worth it if you haven't yet already. And those who are subscribed to the newsletter, thank you so much for your support, and hopefully you're getting value out of it. And feel free to drop a comment if you have any suggestions and feedback for my newsletter, because I'm always looking to improve as a content creator, and I take this newsletter very seriously, and look forward to creating many more newsletters. So if you're not on the newsletter, you're absolutely missing out on some of my best content, because some of my best things I ever said has been in this email and nowhere else. So there you have it. That is everything that I'm using to stay up to date in the field of cybersecurity. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this is a great foundation, but by no means is this a full comprehensive list. This is only a starting point, and if you are completely lost in the sauce, then you can get started with just this list. But I fully expect you to take control of your career and sub out some of these news sources and plug in some other ones that you like more. You're going to find out what you like and what you don't like, and that's okay, because everyone has different tastes and preferences when it comes to what they consume. So give these ones a shot, and if you don't like it, that's okay. You can search for other ones that you like more, because there are dozens of other newsletters, there's dozens of other podcasts, and honestly, the world is your oyster when it comes to staying up to date in the field. The point is, you need to be following something, and you need to be continuously filling your brain up with the news, the trends, the latest breaches, the latest exploits, because if you're not, you are falling behind. Staying up to date in cybersecurity is not only important, but it is absolutely essential. So to recap, the news sources that I'm using to stay up to date in the world of cybersecurity are the cybersecurity headlines from the CISSA series. That's a podcast. I also like to listen to the Cybersecurity Today podcast from IT Oral Canada. And for newsletters, I subscribe to the CompTIA Smart Brief. I subscribe to the Hacker News newsletter. I also like to read the This Is an IT Support Group newsletter, the SANS News Bites, and I like to scroll LinkedIn. Scrolling LinkedIn has a wealth of information, and it's a great way to stay up to date in the world of cybersecurity if you are connected and following the right people. Last but not least, shameless plug here, I also have a newsletter. It's not for staying up to date in the news per se, it's more motivational content. But if you want to read my motivational content that I'm putting out every single week, you have to check out the Cyber Mindset Digest, and you can subscribe at kaiserclark.com/newsletter. So this video was about staying up to date with the news. However, how do you stay up to date with your skills? And that's where platforms like TryHackMe and HackTheBox come into play. And if you have no idea about these two learning platforms, or you just want to know the difference between the two, which one to pick, then you have to click this video right here where I give you the complete guide on TryHackMe versus HackTheBox. Click watch now, and I'll see you there.